Yo, 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 what is going on, COD Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder, and today I got the one and only Maskelalitos with us. How you doing, bro?
What's good, bro? Pleasure to be here, man. Thanks for the invite. I laugh when you make your intro because I don't know if you know this, but every time I go AFK on my streams, I come back and I say your intro.
Really?
Yeah, every time.
You know what? I was watching. It's so funny you say. I was watching your stream yesterday, and I did not see. Evelyn, go close it, please. I didn't see your. No, you had gone to go get a package or something. That's what it was, and you came back, and I thought I'm pretty sure I was watching it, and I maybe I missed it right when you said that. Maybe I had to go and do something, but that's nice to know. I'll be on the lookout for that next time.
It makes people laugh, so that's why I did it.
That's too good. Okay, so this is what we got in store today. I thought it would be nice to go over and you and I just talk about our thoughts, kind of the state of the game in regards to the new SOS chapter for the KvK season getting announced for Dragonfall, and on top of maybe going over some of the new dev Q&A stuff. So, with that in mind, I would love to start off maybe just us talking about the new SOS season for Dragonfall, which, again, there seems to be a decent amount. Now, I know you did a video, you touched on it, so maybe let's start with the team up mechanic and what they've described there. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's really good, bro. Especially the part where they're saying like the Paragon realms. Like, I mean, we always make comparisons to Rise of Kingdoms to try to get people to see what so similar to like the Imperium kingdoms in Rise of Kingdoms. Mm-hmm. And considering recent Diplo, which we will not mention any names, but I'm sure we know who we're talking about, like Diplo has just been bad, man. It's made the game kind of dull, and people see that. And now the fact that with this new update that Paragon realms can't team up together, I think it's great. I think it's perfect.
Yeah, no, I very much aligned there, and the way I read it, right, which is like they're giving you the whole A through D classification, where it's only the A and Bs can team up, and then only the C and Ds can team up. So if it plays out that way, and you can't have an AA join up or a BB join up, or essentially two kingdoms from the same grade, then I think that would be good. And the fact that now you could have, you could realistically have someone like Nawar and then maybe someone like a POTC as an example, maybe based on their size, right? Where you might see them kind of categorized as like a B or C maybe. And obviously we'll have to look at how the rankings come in, but essentially where it's kind of forcing you at the same time to have to work with someone else. And also I think it's a great opportunity for maybe other kings and queens to meet other kings and queens. So you can kind of develop more relationships, and it's not just going to be some kind of overpowered matchup. Now the challenge, I wonder, and I'm curious what you think about this, is do you think they're going to have a power cap for the A and B kingdoms? Or because, and I say this because, and I'm sure you might know where I'm going with this could quickly turn into one of those things where the strongest A wants to pair with the strongest B. The strongest C wants to pair with the strongest D, and then so on and so forth. You see where I'm going with that?
Yeah, definitely.
So what do you think about that?
I think that, for one, I think you're 100% right, and I do think that there will be a power cap, because if there isn't, it's just going to be the same Diplo, one-sided Diplos all over again. I think with, strongest A's trying to team up with strongest B's kind of inevitable. Yeah. But at the same time, like, that's going to require work from the leadership team, recruitment team, or Diplo team to all kind of come together and like do their homework on who's there, right? Which opens up a nice spot for content that I'm sure someone by the name of BN would love covering, especially how we just talked about off recording about, like kind of like the draft plays. Yeah. Dude, I can't wait, man, especially during that team up class. Like, dang, like, oh, damn, you guys are a D tier kingdom. Like, yeah. You know what? You're so messed up, bro. God, go scoot your D trash down the street. Jeez, Lord Almighty. So that is interesting, and I do think so. So you're almost saying that
it might be, well, again, obviously they're probably going to get graded based on their current power, but it will be interesting to maybe see who starts off as what grade, and then will they be able to change their grade, right, from obviously powering up or powering down season to season. But what I also think could be interesting is what happens if we see people that form a team up. So you'll see an A or B that'll get paired, and then what happens if you end up seeing them get kicked, like right before or maybe during the team up phase, where like you're, because people are going to be paying attention to that stuff, and you're like, oh, okay, well, so they're going to work with them. But what happens if maybe one of those kingdoms gets kicked out during that, and then they end up joining up with someone else? That could maybe add a little bit of flair and intrigue to, why did they allow for them to join their team up, but then all of a sudden they remove them and now they're teaming up with someone else. And it just, I think it kind of lends to what you're saying, where there's definitely a lot more opportunities for content when it comes to the team up system. In addition, will it be telling at all for why certain kingdoms or certain alliances opt to team up with certain ones as well?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even in Rise of Kingdoms with all like the camp stuff, and I compare it to there because that's like my experience with like camps. Like, I mean, it even goes as far as like, let's just say they were gonna team up, and just how you said, last second they get kicked. It almost ruins the KvK in a way, because then people get like throw like a child tantrum and like, all right, bet we're just not gonna play in this KvK now. So now you're going into the fight with an AFK kingdom because of God knows what happened in Diplo.
Oh, jeez.
Hopefully not, but I mean, it's bound to.
Yeah, and let me see, how long is the team up? So, we don't know. So we just know it's 6 days, right? So registration's on the 5th, which is today at reset. Registration opens for everyone, and then classification, we don't know how long that's going to be. But if we assume everything's 2 days, that can maybe be fair, right? Because registration maybe is 2 days, classification could be 2, team up could be 2, or maybe they'll do like a 2-1-3. Maybe they'll give you more time for the team up because it's the first time. Who knows? Okay. How about the next one here, which is the fellowship system? What do you think about this? Basically being able to form, I feel like they're forming division squads, right? So
yeah,
right, but you get 5 players that you can form this fellowship, right? Get a nice little LOTR reference, but you get to form this squad, and then basically the squad will be able to use power-ups or buffs. And one of the examples they give is the Legion teleportation. I was joking with someone in Gen Chat about what if you use the Legion teleportation and then people are like running staffs so they could like double, triple TP. It's just, I don't know. It was just a funny thought. But what do you think about this? Being able to squad up with people, do you think that it is going to allow for maybe another layer of strategy? You think it's just a gimmick?
I think it's definitely a layer of strategy. Like when I first saw that, I'm like, bro, which is I like it because I'm like, they're watching, like the devs or the community managers, like they're watching how the game has developed. Like with the Staff of the Prophet, I'm sure when the Staff of the Prophet was implemented, it wasn't meant to be implemented at the scale that it is now. Like huge freaking staff plays for past takeovers and stuff like that. But now with the 5 lords, I'm excited for that, dude, because now I know some people are like, oh, they're gonna team up with like someone that's lower power, but I think people are just gonna make little god squads, little SEAL Team 6 type teams that can just teleport on each other. Think about it, like if you have these guys at 5-bomb tanks or 5-bomb calves, that all 5, so now you got 25 legions that can just teleport on each other. I mean, what is gonna be the limit there? I'm excited. Like, there's actual room for actual strategy with that. So
no, yeah, absolutely. I wonder if, because someone had mentioned to me that what if it's an extension of the army groups? So what happens if maybe you're able to control some other players' units that are in there? And again, I don't think anything like that has been mentioned officially, but I know someone had asked that question, and I thought it was interesting that they brought that up. Because, I mean, could we see something like that happening? Maybe, where you have a player who's able to do it. Now, I would like to believe that won't happen, and it'll, like, the players have to be online and maybe doing it in real time to participate. But it basically it makes you wonder if they do allow some form of that. I mean, almost like they're just making certain things official. Wink, wink.
No, yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting because it's like, what do they mean? Like level up their comrades or share heroes and artifacts? Does that mean they can't use them? Mm-hmm. Or you know what I mean? But it's like, if that means that you can essentially duplicate your, maxed out artifact amongst 5 players, because there is those players that are super active, but their commanders and artifacts are just not there yet. So, oh yeah, this definitely helps kind of close in the gap, and I think that is their intention. It also makes me happy to see that they're also thinking about people who can't afford this stuff. That way they can enjoy the game as well.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I almost wonder if maybe it's something where like maybe there's a shared EXP factor, so maybe it'll help some people that don't have maxed heroes, war pets, etc., be able to level those up artifacts. Maybe just some way to help kind of boost, whether it's through EXP gain or resource gain. Okay. What about Rapid Siege Warfare? This, I think, has probably been the most contentious one right now, where essentially if Alliance territory is removed and by an opponent, then and maybe potentially force removed by you, but we know the way it reads is that when Alliance territory is lost, and it doesn't say how, it says players whose cities are located within the territory will be relocated to a random location within their affiliated region. So when it says Alliance territory is lost, I imagine that's either it's destroyed or maybe you as the Alliance remove it. And if so, any player cities on that territory will be automatically TP'd back to your starting zone 1. What do you think about this?
I think it's really good. Like, I actually was going over it on stream, and like, you could tell that people were starting to get a little rowdy. Like, wow, what do you mean we can't zero people anymore? That's part of the fun. But at the same time, like, I'm like, guys, trust me, I get it. I'm all, especially as a content creator, everyone loves the zeroing content, because for some reason people like to see other people in misery. But right. But at the same time, like I told them, like, you know what? As much as I like attacking other players' cities or whatever, or just trying to inflict as much damage as possible to kind of sway the scales in your way for winning. But I know so many players that have quit after they gotten zeroed. And Call of Dragons is very forgiving compared to other kingdom builders when it comes to being zeroed. But for example, in ROE, their XR5/R4, they stole like 6 billion resources from him. And he had Jay's like, man, I overslept through my alarm. Can you imagine that? Losing 6 billion resources like that? That would make a lot of people leave the game. So I think it's good. I think it's going to help with people to, keep their account safe and continue progressing.
Okay. Yeah, see, I have a little bit of a different take. I understand it from that perspective. My take, and I think I had said this too when I covered it, is, my view is that at the game's core, it is a war game, and it is a kingdom builder. And given that, when you're in home kingdom, it's relatively safe, after Season 1, once things are kind of stabilized, or maybe towards the end of Season 1, and you're not really having to worry as much about the potential of civil wars or rogues going around and just reaping their own benefits on people. And then you get to the KvK, and for me, the KvK is always kind of a volunteer thing, right? Like, you don't have to participate, but obviously it's encouraged. And you go there by choice, just as much as you go to the front lines by choice. And from this, if you're stuck out, or in some cases, if your alarm does go off and you oversleep, then, that's on you.
Sleepy.
Yeah. And you, and those, it's risk and reward. You are needing to either be paying attention, or if you don't want to worry about those things, right, you throw a shield, you TP back far, out of the fight, and then, you wait until you're back online and able to sit down and play for a while. You move yourself to just a safer area. But, you are responsible just as much as you are accountable for what happens to your city, to your troops, to your resources out on the field. Now, the other side of this that I've heard some people say as well, because the speed is going, as they're saying, is going to be greatly increased for building and destroying alliance buildings, that you might end up seeing a lot of people burning through a lot of unnecessary teleports with that. If you're constantly seeing building happening or constantly seeing destruction happening, because and I mean on the opposite side, like let's say that players are wrecking havoc and they're burning, and they are constantly getting forced TP'd back to the starting zone. That means that they're going to have to then burn another TP to get back to where they are, and before they can actually start like sending troops to go and support, right, from any meaningful position, or as far as any meaningful time to get there. Now, with the exception of if you're fighting closer to your pass and maybe you don't get TP'd that far away from the pass, from your affiliated zone to the FZ, right? I mean, there are some situations where it may not be that impacting. But if you're constantly getting pushed, you TP up front, back to the territory, you lose the territory, you get forced TP'd off, like the system itself can almost be like unnecessarily forcing you to use a lot of TPs. Because some people may not mind getting rallied and enjoy some of those garrison defenses, right? Maybe it obviously might be for some of the stronger people. But I guess generally speaking, I wonder. Now, I'm okay with them testing it, right? From what, to your point, you think it is going to benefit, and it probably is a smart move for them to maybe do. Maybe they're doing it conservatively. Maybe they want to do it like this for the first season, so they don't put so that maybe they don't put as many people in harm's way. But I very much, like I said, I'm very much of that stance of where, like, dude, if you get caught sleeping, that's on you. Yeah. So, but okay. Let me see. Do we have anything else here? We got proving grounds, new policies, but they didn't really state anything. Okay, what about the map? Totally different. And I'm going to let you go first on this one because I have my general thoughts. But what did you think when you first saw the map?
When I first saw it, the first thing that came to mind was, okay, it looks pretty simple, like simplified compared to some of their previous designs that had like multiple different zones to fight in.
It's like a basic B map.
Yeah. So, but with this, I'm like, okay, well, it looks like everyone's gonna have access to final zone, so that's pretty cool. You know what I mean? So it gives people even more chances to continue fighting in the Dragon Zone. But I think for me, the main thing I'm waiting for to give like my full opinion on it is the passes. Like, how many passes are there?
Okay.
Because that's definitely gonna influence the like dynamic of it.
What do you think starting positions will be? You think it's going to be left and right? It's going to be top bottom? It's going to be cross?
I mean, based on what it shows, it's like you have Novola and Zolan that are like north and south of each other, and then Darylin and Forgotten Lands north and south of each other. Or what do you mean?
Well, so excuse me while I try not to die. So my thought was maybe they'll do it crisscross applesauce and they'll have it be an X. And my thought was this is because
I get what you're saying.
You have the two camps, but if you're trying to get the most amount of PvP possible and you put them cross, then that means that each zone could fight their cross zone, right? Compared to if you do it northwest or west east, or sorry, north south west east, then you'd only be potentially fighting in two of the zones, and then basically everyone would get a free zone, right? So you'd have like a free zone just for you two, and then you'd have two zones that you'd fight in. Now I say that they could do this X, but maybe they can do delayed openings. So maybe they would only open two of the regions first, and then the next two get opened up days later. Right? So you're not overloading everyone to fight in up to 4 of the Zone 2s. That was my thought on how I could maybe see them doing something where you still get a nice little appetizer of PvP before the FZ opens. But we'll have to wait and see.
Oh, no, I could definitely agree with that because at first glance I'm like, wait, how is this gonna work? Do you get to choose whether you fight left or you fight right first? But now that you mentioned that X method, that could very well be the way they do it, right? Because at first you fight the left side, right? Novola against Darylin, and then Novola against Zolan. I mean, yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, again, there's a couple ways they can do it. So I agree with you here on the final zone. I am very much, and you've probably heard me say this as much as I'm sure you have, and other people have said this numerous times, is that what is the point of them doing all these adjustments and improvements that they've been making to the final zone over the past couple seasons on specifically the Tamaris map? And I want to be very clear here. I think this is absolutely hilarious, and I don't mean as a way to bash the devs or call them out on anything in any kind of negative way. But the fact is that this is not a Bellerin season map. This is a circle. Okay, this is Tamaris. Why are we calling it Bellerin? We all know that the first Bellerin introduction was like the pyramid style design, where you're starting bottom and you're going up. And so I just wanted to point that out because I think it's absolutely hilarious. Like I don't get it. Anyways, that's my small little side tangent for the video out of the way. I am very much a fan of that. They are allowing up to every single player and every single alliance and every single kingdom that's participating in the KvK to actually make it to the final zone, where we can see the improvements and the feedback that they've taken from the community applied. And we get to be able to see people play that out in the FZ, in this crescendo kind of final boss approach of what the final zone should be. And I think this is probably the first time that we've really seen them come out with a map like this. They haven't done something like this before. So from that angle, I absolutely love it. I could almost argue that trumps, as you mentioned, this kind of simplistic map design. We don't really know too much about it right now. And I could argue that trumps all of those other things, because now no players, no alliances, no kingdoms are going to feel like, they were only able to experience a third or 2/3 of what the KvK could offer.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even with us with TFS right now, like, we got locked out of that zone, and like now we're just watching from zone 1.
My God.
Like you don't even get to annoy them because they're nice and safe in the final zone. You know what I mean? Where if you had a pass access to it, you can at least go in there with flying chickens and just annoy them.
Oh my God, I'm done. That's pretty funny. Okay. Anything? So before we move to the Q&A stuff, anything else you want to touch on there for the Dragonfall chapter?
The last thing I want to say is the whole like rapid siege warfare. I think it's great because Jason had someone do like an actual, like, I guess it was interpreted wrong here with the rapid siege warfare, because some people were thinking that you were going to be able to place a bastion wherever, like you wouldn't need alliance territory, but essentially he was saying that you would have to place it in its own grid, so you can no longer stack towers, because that's kind of been meta lately, kind of hunker down, spam some towers and bastions everywhere, and it's good, but now it has to take its own thing, and especially with the increase of speed of demolishing and building, I think that's amazing, because it could get really boring when you're sitting there burning towers for an hour and 10 minutes.
Dude, absolutely. So that's something I wish, or I hope, and I love that. I hope that they put that in the patch notes and they say, like, look, you're not going to be able to layer towers anymore. I would actually be down to see that change made and then just see how that plays out over a season or two. Because I'm with you. I mean, the stacking of towers, just like the stacking of turrets and turrets probably more impactful than barricades, but you could argue barricades and turrets, right? Kind of just being overlaid and just side by side. But yeah, I'm with that. So if that's the case, I actually think that sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy. Okay. Moving on to the big Shibuya bang here. Okay, the big jalobi, which is the Q&A. I want to hear what do you think about the Q&A overall before we dive into some of the nitty gritty.
I mean, once I read overall, I was very impressed, and because I feel like majority of the Q&A was like a lot of quality of life improvements. One of the main things that the community has been saying is like the devs are not listening to our complaints. Like there's just like not even caring and like not making the changes. But a lot of the things in that Q&A, like you can tell like there's starting to be like a big shift in improving some of the things that people that they don't like. So for me, I'm like, that's dope. Like we need this. The community needs this. More of this, please.
Absolutely. I think you're spot on with that, especially what was it, the last patch or the second to last patch where they just ended up working a lot of quality of life stuff in, and a lot of people were dawning that this was the community patch that we had wanted and needed for a while. And then you see them kind of showing a little bit of consistency so far with coming out with this Q&A, right? Small little trend from that patch to now getting this dev Q&A, which speaks to what should be coming out across the next two patches. It very much feels, I guess we could argue it's a roller coaster of just emotions and up and downs, but I mean, their trajectory right now is going up based on the last patch, this Q&A. It very much feels like we're going in a more consistent and better direction thus far. Okay, so your thoughts on them reducing the pre-war phase and the home realm phase? So they're going to be, right, they say we're working hard at reducing duration of seasons, of the KvKs and pre-war. So your season and your pre-war and home kingdom is going to be reduced at the moment. What do you think about that?
I think it's perfect and it's very much needed because, I mean, every time I've been in like any kind of downtime, whether that was home kingdom or just downtime in general, there's been a lot of people who quit. You know, there's been a lot of people who quit. You know, I'm fortunate enough to have 2 accounts, but in my comments or in my chat, they're like, "Man, I wish I was there. This home kingdom stuff is grueling." So yeah, whatever they got to do to, and it sounds like, you know, how they also mentioned that they're gonna add some extra stuff for us to like stay busy during the time. So like all that stuff is definitely good, and it shows that they're hearing the people out.
Yeah, more events, more activities. That's been a crux of consistent community feedback on what people have been asking for. And so it's nice that they address that. I mean, you know, I know when we did our State of the Game questionnaire, you know, we got 116 kings and queens or leadership teams that replied. You know, you saw 50% of the vote was essentially, we're okay with how it is. But about a third of the vote was asking and hoping for them to reduce the time. And so, you know, I think whether they reduce it, now my feelings is they only need to maybe reduce it 5 to 10 days. I think that's enough on the first go around. I don't think it should be any more, and I don't think it should be any less than 5 days. What do you think on that? Where do you land?
Yeah, I think like a 2 to 3 weeks will be fine.
Okay. All right, damn.
Especially for me, like recently, I'm like, a lot of people are like, man, we need to just get sent straight into it. I'm like, bro, like that's how you get burnt out. Like, especially when you're an actual fighter, you know, like, and you're sitting there in the trenches all day. I mean, just like losing sleep and freaking, you know, sacrificing whatever you sacrifice to just be there.
Yeah.
Like, it starts weighing down on you. Because what it was, on average, it's been what, like 3 weeks prior to them saying that they're gonna reduce it.
Mm-hmm.
And this time around, it's even longer. At least for a lot of the G1 servers.
Yeah, I think it's about a month.
Yeah, it's like a month, which I think that's about right.
Yeah. Okay. Now, see, my view for Home Kingdom is it should just be like a 2-week turnaround. Like the moment you finish KvK, you get into your Home Kingdom, the timeline starts, and you got to. And I say that because usually what we see happen at the end of KvK is that you're kind of already rebuilding at that point. You know, it's not too often that you're seeing kingdoms and alliances and players that are engaging in big wars all the way to the last day. So, right, being able to get a little bit early recovery before the KvK ends, and then you get the 2-week turnaround. To me, it feels like even for big players, that should be more than enough time, or at least enough time to get the majority, if not all troops trained. Now, maybe if you want to say 3 weeks, okay. But for me, I really would like for them to see how would 2 weeks look at doing a turnaround, and then, you know, you go in, maybe you test that for a season or two, and you see how it plays out, and if you need to make the adjustment, you do.
Yeah, and the other thing too that I think is eventually bound to happen with like increased wait times. I know that is not a popular thing. Like we do not want increased wait times. However, there's a lot of freaking groups like G2s, G3s, G whatever's we're on that are fighting the same people over and over again. So at some point they're gonna have a put a halt on some of the like G1s and G2s to kind of open up that pool of variety of kingdoms because there's a lot of upcoming kingdoms that are gonna be potential contenders within that top 3, top 5.
Absolutely. And what's funny to that, right? So I asked that question on our State of the Game survey, and 71% of the vote, 82 people out of 116, these are, again, out of the top 179 kingdoms, 71% of the leadership teams said they would be okay with delaying the start of their next KvK if they could get more kingdoms into the kingdom pool.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, yeah, man, to your point, the data's there, proof's in the pudding. Okay, next one. Migration. The probably loveliest topic of them all. Permits for the the cost of them getting reduced from 400,000 to 300,000 alliance points, and now you can purchase them for 1k gems. And then we also got the cooldown reduction from 90 to 60. Where do you land here?
I think it's great. I think it's really good, especially like with the gems being. They did say, however, that the amount that you can get are not going to change. So you're still going to get the 5. So
yeah,
you'd be able to get like 1 every week or something like that.
Yeah, but at least now you can consistently get it, right? It's
right.
not like you're going to have to struggle bus it all the time.
Mm-hmm. At least you can now get it, and you don't. And if you have the gems, you can just do that because it is very labor intensive to keep up with those one builds, especially because so many people are trying to do them. Like before you notice it, it's already stacked, and you don't even get to get in on the little road upgrade or or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I did see somewhere on their notes that they were saying that like if you get like a, quote unquote kind of like casted like a leave ticket, that it also reduces your migration cost if you're getting casted out essentially. So I'm interested to see like how much more is it going to get reduced
on the discount.
If you get casted out.
Yeah.
I thought that was dope. I was like, wow. I'm like, that's actually very clever. The leave ticket.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll get to that too. What do you think about the 90 to 60 day thing? Because my stance was that they should just remove the migration cooldown altogether. I don't see it being justified on why you would keep it, with the asterisk there of if they allow every single player to that where they have to apply to a kingdom, and then every player has to get accepted or denied. Like no one can just get in for free to a kingdom anymore, right? Maybe with the exception of like unless you're going to make a brand new account or a new character there. But aside from that, if you're trying to migrate a character in, if they make it to the king or queen, has to accept or deny every single player, and every single player has to apply regardless of power. And to me, it feels like there's just not really a need. And maybe even aside from that, it feels like there's not really a need for the migration cooldown, because most of the kingdoms anyways are just leaving their power cap at the lowest, right? And then they're just adjusting it to get people in and timing that out.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, but like how the reduction works, because I mean, I will say it does suck when people leave like mid KvK, but then again, yeah, I mean, I think it's better to not limit people on where they want to be. I mean, that's something that I've been saying from the beginning, since like I remember I did the collab with you on my channel when the first kid talked about passports.
Yeah,
I was like, oh god, here we go, bro. I already knew there was gonna be so much drama around it. So yeah, I mean, because when someone's not happy, like, I mean, even in real life, like, you just, you do it. Well, most of us, you do what you got to do and get out of there. But if you're just stuck, that is not a good feeling, man. That is not a good feeling.
Yeah. I mean, geez, how many stories have we heard about people that just quit because they didn't want to sit there and play and wait a whole other season before they can move their accounts? So, okay. What about this update where they're increasing RSS points and they're doing resource points, mobs, and Darkling forts where it sounds like they'll be increasing the levels season to season, starting from season 2.
I thought it was really good, but as I was reading it, I was praying for more pet captures.
Okay.
But I didn't see that there. But at least we're getting that, right? Because I will say, even earlier, doing my morning routine as a Call of Dragons player, I have 4 farms, but actually like 6.
Dear God.
And it's sending those out every morning to a level 4 node is not pleasing at all.
Jeez, you are a madman. Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm just
So
gonna...
I love that they're bringing that.
Yeah.
I love that. They're
You know what I love? Not actively playing any accounts. So, hey, that's right. Didn't expect that, did you? All right, let's go to the next one.
I'm sure eventually you will.
Yeah. Or I'll restart, I should say, my 65 account. Okay. So I mean, they did mention the whole thing about finally being able to, or sorry, they gave us a timeline for when they're going to be adding in being able to convert building speedups, right? So that's going to happen at 1.034. Now, we already knew this was coming because they've stated this before in dev feedbacks and Q&As, but they had never given us a timeline. So I feel like that's something we've known for a while. But is your view on excess resources, regardless of what excess it is, that there should just be a way to convert any and all excess resources?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why when they brought the whole like scrapping system, I'm like, cool, this is nice. But I mean, even for example, like the Elianas and stuff like that, especially those, I think they did mention something about that, but yeah. You shouldn't never feel like you're collecting something for no reason, because then that's gonna make people not want to do whatever activity it is to get those items.
Absolutely. Okay. So now we finally get to this leave ticket feature, which is basically from what I had guessed or thought it was the vacation feature that they added in Rock, and then I think someone confirmed that in I think one of the comments I was reading on the video I put out. But you got this leave ticket feature, right? So the High King can issue a leave ticket to players. Players then have to accept, right? And this is the important part. It's like a 2-party accept system. So you have to initiate and accept. So it's not like you as the king or queen can control it. The player has to be down to accept it. So if they accept, players with those leave tickets will not count towards their server's power during the next season's matchmaking phase, and will receive additional discounts when migrating. Now, they say next, but I would like to believe that when they say next, it's loose as in not the one after, the one upcoming, but next as in the one upcoming.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So, with that, you have the leave ticket. Do you think that this is going to be something where it is going to make maybe a significant or a decent impact on the kingdoms themselves, or maybe or do you feel like this just kind of only solves a little bit of it?
I think it does make a good impact, especially the part where it says that it reduces your migration costs, especially that one, because let's just say for whatever reason the player that's getting told to leave is trying to rebel against that place and be like, nah, I'm gonna screw up your guys' matchmaking. But now if they have that, that extra piece of having like a cheaper migration cost with the leave ticket, that would be pretty cool. I mean, it'll be interesting to also see if there's going to be a limitation on that, right? Because if I'm trying to migrate out, I'm going to try to get one of those leave tickets. So we'll see what kind of limitations they have, if they do any.
Okay. I'm back. Sorry, I had to just go slowly close the door.
You're good.
But yeah, so I think for me on the leave ticket thing is, it's not anything like a banish. To me, it's almost as though, to me, you know what it really feels like? It feels like the kingdoms, it almost feels like it's going to force kingdom management teams to have to give a little bit more TLC, right? To have to really work with the people there, because you could effortlessly screw yourself if you, I mean, let's just be real. If you're an a-hole to people, and if you're not working with them, if you're not supporting people and wanting to leave, right? I mean, think about how many kings and queens out there, you know, treat their people good, and then how many maybe don't treat their people that well. Or the people, you know, where you don't kind of have that, I don't want to say guard, but you don't have that, let's just say, you know, BN soft skills, where you're really able to just connect.
PR trained.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you haven't got your official PR certificate yet. But that's something that comes to mind for me is if you think about it, right, what happens if you have king or queens out there that ruffle too many feathers, or they don't know how to treat, they don't know how to deal with, you know, how do you try to get people out of the kingdom, right, so they can be the most impactful and help kind of reducing some of that power. Like, do you think that's something that could happen?
Yeah, I think so. For sure.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's I guess that's something I think about is that, you know, what happens if you have some strong players, and, you know, they, you know, the king or queen asks them to leave, and they're just like, man, no, you've never been nice to me before. Like, you've never looked out for me, or no, you know, you kicked me out of this, or whatever it may have been, right? And they just might not be down for then wanting to accept that leave ticket, and then you kind of have to deal with it. So I don't know, it just seems like it's a very interesting dynamic for how that's going to work. But yeah, do you wish or thought at all that maybe them putting in some kind of banish feature? I know there's been a number of variations from stuff we've talked about before and things that have been put out there, but where do you land on that? Would you like some kind of a banish feature that maybe kind of addresses the strongest players working its way down, that are either just inactive, or they're active but they're not contributing, and you just need a way to address them either not roguing it up in the kingdom, or just not counting towards your kingdom power cap for migration purposes and for matchmaking?
Yeah, I think because like one of their concerns, I think I forgot where I've seen it, but their concern is for it to get abused. You know, like how you mentioned, like you have some kings and queens that are a-holes or whatever, and they don't want people to abuse it. But at the same time, like, I feel like as these seasons go by, they're gonna have to figure out more and more ways to, like, help kingdoms out to get rid of some of these people that are just there. Because even if someone gets zeroed, right, a T5 player will be roughly 55 to 57 million power, which if you have several of those, like, that's gonna make a big impact on your kingdom. So I really do hope eventually they figure out something. I really don't know what the answer is to that, but something that, how you mentioned,
well, you should,
they
Gunz.
don't count towards the matchmaking.
That's why I'm talking to you. So I got you.
Yeah, well, I would just say it's similar to a leave ticket. You know what I mean? Like, bam, you're done. You don't count towards the matchmaking.
Okay. No, awesome. All right, so we did. Let me see what do we got next. We got the alliance member points. What did they do here? They said, yeah, we don't plan to remove the cap for member points. We'll continue. Okay, yeah, so they're just going to do that. Okay, so they did mention something about war pets, right? People were asking about gathering war pets, and they did say that they're going to introduce them, which is nice. What do you think about this mobile change for them adding in the PC version's control scheme?
I think it's really cool, yeah, because I mean, I do think that PC players do have a massive advantage being able to just right-click around from, you know, attack, retreat, whatever. So if the mobile players get that feature, that'd be really nice.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it almost seems as though, to me at least, objectively trying to have as much crossover, as much consistent crossover that is easy for the mobile players to utilize, just as much as it's as easy for the PC players to utilize on their end. So I do like that they're, at least it seems like they're paying attention to those kinds of things to make sure it's kind of fair and balanced, at least as much as maybe they are. Okay, what about Roots of War? You still play Roots, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Where, I mean,
Too
again,
much.
okay, there we go. Well, there we go. So see, I'm talking to the right person. So they said that they're going to be issuing a comprehensive systematic in-game survey regarding Roots of War at some point in the future. They're going to gather some feedback, and then they're going to look at kind of what changes they may need to make. What are the biggest pain points that you see right now for Roots?
Let's see. I gotta really think about this one because I'm actually someone that likes the feature a lot, even with the changes that they've made.
Okay.
I know some people were upset because it's like Rise of Kingdoms again. It's like people love going after that. Let's see. What are some of the main pain points for Roots of War? And it has gotten better. It's just like the matchmaking and the fact that we don't have a league yet.
Yeah.
And that's for me. Like I really want that league stuff because even for me, like I play like 3 Roots of Wars every weekend, so it's a lot, and it's starting to feel just like a chore now. You know what I mean? I'm not really excited for Roots of War anymore. So we definitely need that league or just something else for it.
No, absolutely. For me, I think the one thing that I just really want them to add in, and this is maybe more for me, and I'm sure maybe other people would enjoy it too, but just being able to spectate matches. If it's just like 1 or 2 matches a day over that weekend, right? Every 2 weeks that is picked out, and these could just be like the highlight matches, or maybe they feature different teams and they rotate that every 2 weeks, but at least 1 match a day, maybe 1 to 2 matches a day, you can spectate them either on a delay in real time, or you can watch the VOD after the match is done. And that, I think, to me, would almost allow people like us, content creators, to, one, put content out about Roots of War, because really the only opportunity you have to do it is when matches are going on, and usually if you're only in that alliance.
Yeah.
Right? So you don't really have this opportunity to kind of create this healthy ecosystem around ROW gameplay and ROW matches and other things to that effect. And then I'm sure there's players that maybe want to be able to watch how other people play, and that can maybe help grow the scene, right? With tactic improvements, strategy improvements, doing more trial and error testing, getting inspired from what other teams are doing, and then maybe you guys tried and you figure something out, and then maybe you have a breakthrough. It's just that opportunity for like that intellectual bubble to pop. So, okay. Well, too much passion right now is overflowing. Well, listen, I think my lady just dipped out, so I'm watching the kiddos solo. So I guess we can kind of wrap up if that's all right. But I'd love to, I guess, hear lastly from you is, with, and again, we can maybe do another follow-up and talk about some other stuff I'd love to as well, is where, after now seeing this Q&A, seeing the new stuff we have coming out for the Dragonfall chapter in SoS2, what it feels like getting a little bit more consistency in having kind of positive trending updates, where do you stand? Where do you land right now, if you had to summarize on the state of affairs?
I'll say similar to like the beginning of our video here. I'm excited, man. It's really cool to see that they're actually listening to the people and making the changes needed, like migration, all of this stuff. They've pretty much addressed a lot of the main things being complained about. So I just hope we just continue in that direction, and they just continue being open about it. So hopefully it continues good.
Well said. I'm going to be honest, I feel like that actually was pretty good, and is actually Oscar worthy. I really appreciate you putting those words out there into the ether. Okay. Well, I will leave it on that. I'll just lastly say, man, make sure you guys check out Gunz, and Gunz, where can they find you?
YT Gunz COD.
All right. Awesome. All right, man. Make sure you guys go show him some love. I'm always periodically spying and creeping in the stream, so make sure you guys check him out whenever he is. Show him some love. Show him some support. And, man, Gunz, I appreciate you, man. This was fun.
Likewise, bro. Likewise. Until the next one.
As always, we will. Come on, Gunz. You don't know my outro? You know the intro, but you don't know the outro?
What?
You're supposed to be like, catch you later.
Oh, no, I only got until the next one.
Damn, this guy. I'm done. All right, man. We out.